Hello everyone, welcome back. And today we are going to be going over the top anime of spring 2024, the ones I watched and how I enjoyed them. So, ahead of time, I'm just going to go ahead and say there are going to be spoilers over the series. So first, I'm going to go over what the name of the series is and give a brief description of it and stuff like that. Then I'm going to go into spoiler territory because I'm going to go over what I enjoyed about them, some major plot points, and stuff like that. So if you have not seen any of the ones that I'm going to talk about, maybe just skip past the last bit apart and go watch it, and then you can go watch this. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to go over the top 10 first, and then I have some honorable mentions that did not quite make it to the top 10. But number 10 is going to be The Duke of Death and His Maid, Season 3. So, The Duke of Death is a pretty sweet series. I love the art style for it. And the series revolves around a duke, and he is cursed. The curse makes it so whenever he touches something, it dies. So that could be plants, animals, humans, whatnot, anything. But it's basically has been his daily life dealing with the curse. But this season, instead, they are trying to break the curse. So the witch, actually, I should probably go ahead and say that this is going to be now going to spoiler territory. So the witch that cursed him is named Sade, and she is dead. So now that she's dead, she can't break the curse, and no one else can break the curse because she was a very, very powerful witch. So they're going to go back in time to get Sade to get rid of the curse. And yeah, so the whole very beginning of the season is them training and getting ready to go back in time. And I do have a list of stuff that I was going to talk about because I figured out that it is easier for me to write down a list of stuff and then talk about it. So first, yeah, they went back and trained back in time. Oh yes, Daleth, her sister, the one in black there, is trying to turn human so that she can marry Walter, and also, well, Walter is the main character's brother. So she's trying to marry the main character's brother. Alice's mother wakes up in this series from her cursed sleep because it was after they went back in time, so I don't know for sure if Sade changed her mind and that changed the future. Not 100% sure. Also, our main character, the Duke, his grandfather's ghost makes an appearance, and that makes it so they learn more about Sade before they go back in time. Also, I have a note here that Daleth is so cute at the dance party whenever she's trying to dance with Walter. But anyways, then they end up going back in time to fight Sade and get her to release the curse. Sade is actually a really cool person when she's not crazy and trying to fight people and stuff like that. Daleth ends up becoming human, and then Alice and the Duke end up getting married and finally are able to touch each other because the curse is broken, and they finally get to kiss. So that is kind of my favorite parts of the series. I thought Daleth was very, very cute in there. Sade, like I said, was a pretty cool person after she released the curses and whatnot. And I do have some memes here to go over that I thought were not exactly from season 3. Two of them are. The one is I think from season 1. So in our very side here, we have one where it's basically Daleth saying that she's finally fell in love. Pretty cute. Her and her blush. Then on the bottom there, we have the Duke looking at Alice's legs. And he's saying, I know I may not look it, but I'm a man. Just because he does not ever act on his impulses, because if he touched her, he would kill her. And then we have a picture of Alice's mother, and she's saying, oh, you're so cute, marry me, but I'm your daughter. So, very cute, very cool. Duke of Death, I hate that I had to put it at number 10 because it was very good, but I feel like the very beginning of the season to the middle was kind of slow. The very ending was pretty good. I like them actually fighting Sade and everything like that was pretty good. But it started out very, very slow. Yeah. But anyways, that was The Duke of Death and His Maid Season 3. So let's move on to number 9. So number 9 is My Hero Academia Season 7. Now, I will say this, okay? The main reason why I put it so low is because I'm fairly caught up in the manga. Like, basically everything that's happened in Season 7 I've already read. Was not really any surprises or anything that happened in the series. Also, I did not really find any memes of it. And really, if there's a lot of memes for a show, it very, very much affects how much I like it. So there's no memes I didn't have for this. My Hero Academia Season 7 was very, very good. I did like it. I do have some stuff I was going to talk about here. So, Stars and Stripes, loved her. Should have been more screen time, and she should not have died so quickly. But they did get like one full episode with her, and then a part of a second episode. So I mean that was good. Wish her quirk is amazing. I love her quirk of being able to change like some rule in like the physical world. Let's see. Actually, I should probably go ahead and say again spoilers about it because that was the first episode. That's not really that bad. But anyways, the description for the season is basically the League of Villains, and all villains in prisons and stuff like that have been released. The heroes are trying to capture them, and they're also fighting All For One, the main baddie of the entire series, and Shigaraki. Now, well, I'll go back into all this stuff. Again, spoilers. Aoyama turns out to be working for All For One. And he's the one that's been telling All For One about like the training camps and where Deku is and whatnot. But he's doing it because All For One basically said, "Hey, if you don't, I'm gonna kill you and your family," you know, kind of thing. He's basically blackmailing them. So Aoyama is not a bad guy. He's just doing it because he has to. But they end up using Aoyama as bait to lure out All For One. And that leads to the separation of the villain's forces. So basically, Aoyama brings Deku to an area and tells All For One that, like, oh, hey, he's going to be right here. And all the villains end up going there, and then all the heroes end up meeting also through portals and whatnot. And then they end up trapping them in these big domes and sending them to different areas through portals. So like some end up on an island, some end up in the middle of like a ruined city, some end up there's a flying fortress that they end up bringing Shigaraki to fight him because then he can't touch the ground and use decay. So they separate all the forces and stuff like that. Like Dabi's separate, All For One is separate, Shigaraki's separate, just everything like that. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I love the Dabi versus Todoroki fight. It was a very good fight, seeing the two brothers fight against each other and stuff like that. The series is not... This season is not finished yet, okay? So I can't really say, like, for sure... I'm not going to say it because it's manga spoilers. That's what I'm going to say. But still, very good. The action is very well animated and stuff like that. I mean, if I did not already know what was happening, I'd be more hyped about it. And like I said, I didn't really see as many memes about it. So that's the reason why it is only number 9 on the list. So let's move on to number 8. Oh, here is one that I love, okay? So, Grandpa and Grandma turn young again, okay? This is one that was like very, very low on the My Anime list thing. I didn't really think there'd be that many people watching it and stuff like that, but I thought it looked interesting. And I thought the art style looked great too. And the premise of itself is pretty cool. So basically, there's an older couple. They run an apple orchard, and they are going through the apple orchard, and I'm pretty sure that the tree that they find they find a golden apple, okay? And I'm pretty sure the tree they find it on is the tree that they planted whenever like they were like just getting married or something like that. But they find a gold apple on a tree in the orchard. And they eat the apple, And kind of like the title says, Grandpa and Grandma turn young again. And basically, the whole premise of the story is them basically being able to be young again, be able to do stuff they weren't able to do beforehand, just feeling better about themselves because they can, like, not hurting and stuff. And there's some really cute stuff that happens. So let's go ahead and go into the spoiler territory here about the series. So if you haven't watched it, maybe skip. But anyways, Grandpa and Grandma turn young again. I do actually have a lot wrote about this. So, the description for it. So whenever they go to sleep, both Grandpa and Grandma, they see an hourglass, okay? And this hourglass shows basically how much of life they have left, basically. And if they turn the hourglass over, they flip it, they will turn old again. But they won't have their pains and stuff like that because there's times in the series where they flip it on and off and to turn old again to see people so they don't freak out and stuff like that. But yeah, so the hourglass is a big thing of what happens in the series. It affects a lot of stuff. So when they go to sleep, they see an hourglass and they can turn old or young again. One time in the series, Grandma accidentally trips over in her dream and damages the hourglass, which causes her to lose her memories for an episode. Like, it doesn't last very long at all. I think just an episode. But in that time, it's basically her before she met Grandpa, and she can't remember, and he's trying to get her to remember stuff, and she ends up remembering and changing back to normal. But something very cute they do is they go on a honeymoon to the city, because I don't think they got to go to a honeymoon where they just got married. And they end up going with one of their grandchildren, and then also the boy that she likes. And they have some pretty cool interactions there. There is a beach episode with them, which is kind of funny because the grandma, she is like a bombshell in her younger years, and her in the swimsuit is very pretty. Grandpa, on the other hand, he somehow does something with the hourglass where he turns old, but he has the muscles from when he was younger. So he's just a buff old man. And like at the beach. Can't remember anything else that really happened at the beach episode. Then apparently there are other people that turn young again also by eating a golden apple. So they meet another person, or another couple that ended up finding a golden apple kind of like them and turning young again. And their son has gone to medical school to try to learn more about the golden apple or whatnot, and he finds history books and stuff like that, like encounters and stuff like in writing of other people in the past also turning young again by eating a golden apple. So that's a pretty cool plot thing that happens there. Yeah, so they learn later on that again, whenever the hourglass is empty, they die. But Grandpa gets a god to transfer some of his sand from his hourglass to Grandma's so that they die at the same time, basically. That Grandma doesn't die early. So that is very, very, very cute and a very loving act to basically give away some of your life so that your loved one can survive a little longer. Another thing I have wrote here is Grandpa is a speed demon and has a souped up K-truck. So there's a short little bit that happens that I guess Grandpa ends up driving around at night. So he drives around the orchard to make sure people aren't stealing apples and stuff like that. And he ends up chasing after these people because they're running around, like, speeding in the orchard. And it turns out that his K-truck ended up getting an upgrade. And it can beat their car, whatever their fast speed car is. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Then they teach one of their grandchildren how to take care of the orchard. It's the same grandchild that went with them on their honeymoon. So they teach them how to kind of run the orchard, like plant trees, prune trees, do stuff like that. And also with the boy that she likes. And this is getting near the end of the story, and this is a big spoiler. So be warned. But they end up laying down by a tree in the orchard, like and reminisce about what they've done with their second chance at being young and what they've like enjoyed in life and stuff like that. And basically, they're getting ready to die, and they lay down at the tree and they die in each other's arms underneath the apple tree, which I don't know for sure if it's the apple tree that they got the golden apple from that they planted when they were younger or not. I want to think it is, but I don't know for sure it is. And then after they've died, there is an after credit scene, and the grandchild and her husband are working at the orchard, and then they find a golden apple. They're like an old, they're old and stuff like that, and they find a golden apple there. I'm guessing on the tree that they ended up planting whenever they were there at the orchard. So yeah, very, very cool story. I loved it. Okay, it should be higher up, but there are some that I do just enjoy. So this is a very good one if you want just a nice wholesome one of just an older couple getting to be young again, doing things that they couldn't do earlier in life. It's just very good, and then kind of a sad ending, but it ended very, very well. It felt right. So I have some memes here, of course. There are quite a few memes here. So first off, I just have the one of them with the golden apple just to show you what the golden apple looks like. Then I have right underneath that is just I wanted to show you how they change. So I have up top there is them as old, grandpa on the one side and grandma on the other side. And we're supposed to be a young couple, couldn't get a honeymoon trip. That's fine, Grandpa. And then he basically just wakes up and says, I've turned young again. And Grandpa, we're going on a honeymoon trip, Grandma. It's so cute. That's behind me there. Oh, it's so cute. Then on my other side here, we have the grandchild like grabbing onto Grandpa and says, can I have Grandpa? Because she thinks he looks pretty cute young. Nothing becomes of that. Don't worry about it. And then I have the picture from the manga there where it's explaining them how they turn the hourglass. They turn young, turn it back, they turn old. And yeah, that just kind of, I just wanted to show you that. So again, very good. I love that series. I would highly recommend it if you just want like a nice wholesome series about an older couple getting a new chance at life. So let's move on to number 7. Number 7, we have That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime Season 3. Season 3, I will be honest, is kind of a slower season. There's a lot of political and plot stuff happening in the very back of the series. So I don't really know what to say other than there's just a lot of stuff happening in the background. Like, one of the things that is happening, which isn't much of a spoiler, is more stuff happens with the Saint Hinata and Rimuru, and there's a lot of people sitting at tables talking about stuff. There's just a lot of talking, and I hope it's just getting ready for the next season, getting plot ready and stuff like that. But let's go ahead and go over some of the plot things that I have wrote down here. There's not a ton, but again, spoilers. And I have wrote down a lot of political talk. Yeah. Oh, they do end up setting up road barriers. So in the roads, the trade networks they have, they set up a magical anti-magic barrier that keeps out magical creatures like monsters and stuff like that. So good for people moving, good for merchants and stuff like that. Hinata the Saint is tricked into fighting Rimuru by the 7-day clergy in here because Rimuru sends a crystal ball with a message to Hinata, and I think the 7-day clergy somehow intercept it and change the message and end up getting Hinata to fight Rimuru. Diablo gets to show off a lot in here, the demon of like purgatory basically. So he gets to fight one of the 7-day clergy, and he like I think ends up killing it pretty quick. Then they're getting ready for a festival at this point, and then there's lots and lots of background stuff happening that, like I said, I hope ends up paying off next season. And again, this is not finished yet at the point I'm recording this. I think it's going to like 23, 24 episodes. So we're like halfway through. So yeah, and then I have some memes here. So let's move myself over here. So I have, let's start at the bottom first. So what I'm looking at here is basically all the knights at the round table, and basically Rimuru is the center. He is best girl, best slime, best boy, best creature, and best king. So perfect. Then we have Rimuru sitting at a table discussing stuff, because that's a lot of what happens in this season so far. Then we also have other fandoms. My waifu is best girl, and then no, my waifu is best girl. That's basically the fandom where he's best everything. Best everything. Then we have when you get stabbed by a random criminal, but you get reincarnated as an unbelievably powerful creature and get a kingdom and a harem. That is Slimes. Stonks. So yeah, pretty cool. Really, I wish I could put Grandpa and Grandma again above this, but since this is not technically finished yet, I have high hopes for it to get better. So I'm leaving a little room for interpretation. So yeah, let's move on to number 6. Okay, number 6, Delicious Dungeon. Delicious Dungeon, this continued on from last season. And basically, it's a party of people going down into the dungeon, and as they're going down into the dungeon, they are eating monsters. That is the whole description of Delicious Dungeon. This is basically a cooking show inside a dungeon with fantasy elements, because they're cooking fantasy creatures. Last season, nah, we're not gonna go over that. Let's go ahead and go over some plot things, because that's basically the description. They're just like going around dungeons. It's very entertaining. I do like their facial expressions and everything. But yeah, it's basically them just going down into a dungeon, and as they're going down to the dungeon, they're finding new creatures to eat and how they're cooked, and it's just very entertaining. So some of the stuff I have wrote down here is okay, so I have wrote down about different episodes here that I'm going to talk more about, because these are some of my favorite episodes of the series. So one of the episodes is the Shapeshifter episode. So it's one of my favorite episodes this season. Not the most, but one of the most. Seeing them try to tell apart who is who is very entertaining, because basically the Shapeshifter, there's like a lot of them. So basically, there's 3 extras of each character. So there's 4 Lyoses and 4 Senshis, 4 I forgot all their names. Basically, there's 4 of each of them. And some of them, like Chilchuck. Okay, Chilchuck, the halfling or whatever, the thief guy. All of them basically look almost exactly the same with small little differences, okay? Senshi, there's a couple that you know are not him, and then there's 2 that look very similar. Now, Marcel the elf, okay? There's one that looks like handsome Squidward, okay? I don't have a picture of it on here, but it looks like handsome Squidward. And then Laios? Laios, every single one of them looks extremely different, okay? One of them is very tall, one of them looks very sickly, one of them looks very stupid. So basically, they know exactly which one Laios is, and then Laios has to try to tell apart all the others. So yeah, it's very good. Handsome Marcel is hilarious. I love that episode. Then there's the Nightmare episode, where I guess there is some creatures that hide in your pillows that can give you nightmares and trap you in your dreams. It's very interesting, and we get to see Marcel's nightmares, and it's a pretty interesting episode. I liked it. Then we have the Griffin and Familiars episode, and that one through the end of the series are the best. The end of this season is the best episodes of the series, okay? The Griffin and Familiars episode starts out, and they're in an area where it looks dwarven made, or at least dwarven writing is around there. And this is where we get a lot of stuff with Senshi, okay? Because we don't know much about his background. So there is a griffin in this area, and apparently the griffin is what ended up killing Senshi's party like members before this, his other people, and he is afraid of it for good reason. And the familiars part of it is Marcel ends up making a familiar to help fight the Griffin. So I'll go over that in a second. But these last episodes are the best. I think it's the last 3 episodes. Because, like I said, we get Senshi's backstory and get an incredible new way to change food with a changeling mushroom circle. So basically, whenever Senshi's party members, before they all died, they had been cooking food, and Senshi did not know for sure if they had been eating some of the other dwarves that were dying. He was afraid that they had been cooking their meat, that he had been cannibalizing his other people. So this whole time he's been down here, he's been afraid that he will figure out if he had or if he hadn't. And basically what happens is the Griffin is flying around, and they end up killing the Griffin. And he tastes the Griffin meat, and the Griffin meat does not taste anything like what he had before. So he thinks, oh no, I've been eating dwarf meat. But it turns out that the changeling mushroom circles, whenever a creature goes inside of it, they can change to a different creature. So the Griffin was actually a hippogriff. And they end up putting some of the Griffin meat through the changeling circle. It changes to hippogriff meat. And he eats that, and it tastes exactly like what he tried whenever he was younger. So it turns out he had not been a cannibal. The changing circle also has other like effects that end up happening. So our characters end up going through the changeling circle, and they end up changing into different races. So Marcel ends up turning into a halfling or a half-foot. Laios ends up turning into a dwarf. Senshi ends up turning into an elf, and let me see. Oh yeah, and Chilchuk ends up turning into a human. And they have to deal with that. Then Marcel's familiar is hilarious because she ends up using some meat and some vegetables to make the familiar, and it turns out like she ends up making it different ones. The one she ends up turning to is basically, it looks like a worm with a few different wings, and it moves very, very, very fast. And whenever Marcel controls the familiar, she acts like she's in its eyes. She acts like she's looking through its eyes. So she flaps her arms around and stuff like that. It's hilarious seeing her fly like the creature, and she just basically moves around like a worm, and it's hilarious. Yeah, so that's the big stuff. So we get Senshi's backstory about how he ended up down here. It's very touching. I like it. And, yeah. So, very, very good. I liked this season. I really liked it. And we have some memes here. So, we have one where Laios is basically having a chest burster from the Alien series come out of a chest. And instantly after it gets burst out of its chest, he eats it. Then we also have here that you can only pick one, choose wisely, and you can choose between an elf girlfriend who loves you, or you can have a dwarf girlfriend who will make free meat for you, which I will be honest is a very hard choice. Then we also have here where it's the meme where it's like, I think we're going to have to eat this guy, Marcel, or I think we're going to kill this guy. But instead it's eat, and it's Marcel being, damn. Then we also have there where, why are you giving me your yuckiest dishes? And it's, you're my hungriest soldier. That's why. And then we have a Breaking Bad joke here with Senshi where, Laios, we need to cook. So there's a lot of memes for this series, and it's very enjoyable. I like the food. I like the creatures. I'm a big fantasy fan. So Delicious in Dungeon is a very, very good sell. So if you want to watch this, it would give you good ideas for D&D, for if you kill creatures, maybe cooking them and stuff like that. I feel like it'd be a good idea. So anyways, that is Delicious Dungeon for number 6. Let's move on to number 5. Ooh, number 5 is Train to the End of the World. Train to the End of the World was one that I thought might be a little cute. Ended up being very entertaining because I love the world that they ended up making for it. So, Train to the End of the World, a brief description. Basically, the world has gone crazy because of 7G. So, you know how people were complaining about 5G and how it causes, like, you to be sick and stuff like that? No, that's stupid. It's 7G. 7G is the stuff that ends up making the world all crap. So, basically, there is a company. They make 7G, and they get a girl to press the button. She presses the button to activate 7G, and the world goes all topsy-turvy. Imagine Alice in Wonderland, really. And then it's these 4 girls that are traveling around this new, like, almost fantasy world in a train. That is the description of Train to the End of the World. Now let's go over some of the spoiler territory stuff, some of the stuff that I have wrote down. So, 7G internet ruined the world and made everything change, like I said. So, exactly what changed, you might be asking? Well, the village our main character has come from, all of the people turned to animals. And whenever you turn a certain age, you turn to an animal. So, all the adults instantly turn to animals. Our main characters have not turned to animals yet because they're not old enough. There's also a town that they go to where there are mushrooms growing on everyone that's there. And basically, the people, whenever they have a mushroom growing on them, they are happier, but they end up dying sooner. So, yeah, that's another thing that happens. There's a whole field of people that turned into goatmen. They stop at one stop, and there's a field, and then all these goatmen end up popping out of the grass and running after them. There's a town where people turn to stone statues. Another area where basically everyone turned to zombies, and the zombies are like stupid zombies, not like smart zombies like World War Z and whatnot. Yeah, then there's a town that really is one of my favorite, and they spend a lot of time at, is where everything is shrunk, even the people. So think Little Toy Soldiers. Yeah, very cool. There's a whole town that is turned into kind of like a TV show. So there's a TV show that they know of. And basically everyone there, the city and everything, has changed to look like the TV show. And it's basically like a magical girls show. Because our 4 characters end up becoming basically magical girls and using powers and whatnot. There is a town controlled by manga artists that can change the world and people at will. They wear these green hats. And they can basically say whatever they want, and the world changes to that. Pretty cool. And then also something to know about this is Japan has expanded tremendously because of 7G. So the train ride is very, very long. Because I forgot how long they said it would take for them to get to... I forgot where they were heading to. But it ended up taking a lot longer. So that's some of the plot things that I wanted to go over there. Then I have some memes here. So, of course, the 7G there's the 7G picture, and open the future, and after they press the button, everything goes all crazy. Then behind me here, I have a picture at the top here of one of the people from the village that is turned to a hamster. Then we have a picture of the goatman there. And then we have a picture of the mushroom that is growing on a person's head. And then at the bottom here, we have a picture of the one where everything has shrank. And they have tied 2 of the girls up to a helicopter. And so, yeah, it's a very weird series. And nothing makes sense. And even like 7G doesn't really make sense of why it would cause that. But anyways, it's a very, very interesting series. You can tell because it's above Grandpa and Grandma Turn Young Again, which I enjoyed quite a bit. But yeah, it's basically these girls going to all these different stops trying to get to the end where they're trying to meet up with their friend. The friend is actually the one that pressed the 7G button on the side there. So yeah. Anyways, let's move on. So, for number 4, we have Re-Monster. So, Re-Monster is one that, I'll be honest with you, it's entertaining, but it's on the edge of me, like, thinking it's going too slow. Because, like, in the very beginning, it moves very, 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 very quick. So our main character ends up dying and gets reborn as a goblin. And in this new world, basically, after you gain so many levels, you can evolve and become different species. But basically, the series is him being reborn as goblin and then leveling up as quick as he can. Because when he was in his old world before he reincarnated, he has an ability that whenever he eats something, he can gain its abilities. And he still has that whenever he goes to the world as the goblin. So let's go ahead and go over some of the plot things. So again, spoilers. So some of the plot things I wanted to talk about is, again, he's reborn as a world as a goblin. He eats things, he gains their powers. So in the very beginning, he eats things like he eats a rabbit that has a horn on it, and he gets some ability from it. He eats a bear at one point, gains its abilities. He eats, he can even eat rocks and stuff like that, like stones and stuff like that to gain their abilities. I mean, different stuff like that. He quickly becomes stronger because within the first episode, he evolves into like I think it's a hobgoblin for the first time. Then also within like the first 2 episodes, he ends up taking some human prisoners, 5 to be exact, 5 women, and these women very, very, very quickly fall madly in love with him. And surprisingly, they do not really stay prisoners because he ends up using their abilities. So like, one of them's an alchemist, one's a blacksmith, 2 of them are twins that are cooks, and then one of them's a girl with red hair that is a fighter kind of thing. And he actually treats them very, very well. And like I said, they fall like madly in love with him. He ends up training all the other goblins and other people inside the tribe, and he ends up making a mercenary group out of them. Then 4 of the women end up getting pregnant with his child, and they end up having complications because at this point he has evolved into I think it's an ogre. And spoiler warning, humans cannot really have an ogre baby safely. So they have complications there. They end up figuring it out. Oh, something that happens that I had wrote down here is there's an old goblin that whenever he first gets born and wakes up, names him, and that old goblin ends up dying, and when he dies, he's laying in a bed and he has a boner. So it's just one of those weird things where you're just sitting there and like he just dies, and then you look down and he's got a boner, and it instantly ruins the mood pretty quickly. And another thing I've wrote down here is this reminds me a lot of Hey, I'm a Spider, So What? Because she, whenever she kills things like that and eats them, she gets their abilities too. Still pretty good series. I enjoyed it. Like, you can tell because it got 4th here. Apparently the manga for it is a little bit more, I think, sexualized and stuff like that. There's a lot more stuff that happens. Like, apparently they cut out some stuff like that. But I have some memes here of them. So I have here eating enemies to gain new abilities, and we have our characters here. So we have Rimuru, of course. We have the girl from I'm Spider, So What? We have our character from Monster. We have Kirby. We have Eren Yeager. We have the girl from the High Defense one. But yeah, we have all that. Then we have over on the side there, and it's all the girls that are there, plus one of the goblins. And they want to do it with him. And they do not let him rest. So that is Remonster. And Remonster ends at the point where he ends up having 4 children at the point we end. One of them is actually human. The others are like ogre, like him. And I'm excited for the next episode. And something that happens throughout the series, okay, is basically it will skip points because it'll say like day 1, day 2, day whatever, and it's kind of like almost like a journal entry kind of thing of how the show progresses. So that's a little bit interesting, a little bit different. Yeah, pretty good. Like I said, the manga is apparently a little bit different than the anime. So yeah, kind of like in here, it's more wholesome, whereas like in the manga, apparently it's not so much. So anyways, let's move on to number 3. Okay, so number 3 is, oh, this is a long one. I was reincarnated as the 7th prince, so I can take my time perfecting my magical abilities. So this one, in the very beginning, the character ends up dying and gets reincarnated as the 7th prince of this kingdom. So he stays in the same world, I'm 99% sure. I'm pretty sure he stays in the same world, he just gets reincarnated into the royal family of in that world. And he is very, very overpowered. Like, oh my gosh. I'll go over some of the plot things in a second, but basically, this kid is the most overpowered person in the world. And from a very young age, you can see this picture of like right above me. He could read shortly after birth, and on top, like he could read, even look in books and stuff like that. He was learning spells when he was young, like baby. But I guess that's what you get when you get reincarnated and you want to learn more about magic. So it's basically him falling around. We see him getting to fights and stuff like that. See him get even more powerful and learn how to do more stuff to break the world even more. And it's just very good. And I love the art style for this series. Like, quite literally, this is some of my best art style, best like character drawings I've seen, or like my favorite in such a long time. Kind of like the Duke of Death. I love that art style. This is even better than that, in my opinion. So let's go over some of the spoiler territory stuff, some of the stuff that happens in the series. Yeah, I love the art style, and I think Lloyd, the main character, his art style is so cute. The first episode, okay, I have wrote down here. He is already powerful enough to break into a forbidden library, which he even says himself has an unbreakable barrier. And he breaks it like it's nothing. And inside this forbidden library, there is a demon that's sealed away. And he goes in there and he basically plays with that demon, because he can easily defeat that demon if he wanted to. But he ends up playing and trying out new spells, tries to learn spells from the demon mid-fight, and he ends up beating the demon and making it basically his pet, or his familiar. Then later on, not just magic, but he learns martial arts from a character, and he learns it so quickly. And it's another like good thing for him to learn, because he learned swordsmanship from one of his instructors at, I guess, the castle. Then he learns magic because he loves magic, and then he learns martial arts from her. So basically, if he doesn't have a weapon and he can't use magic, he can still use martial arts. If he doesn't have a weapon and he can't use his arms, he can use magic. He can basically do anything. Yeah, and then I also have on here that this guy goes 1,000,000% even with enchanting, because he gets to the point where he wants to try out enchanting, like make better swords and equipment and whatnot, and he min-maxes that so quickly, because he puts multiple layers of enchantments on there. So like you might think like, kind of like, okay, think of Minecraft, okay? So Minecraft or whatever, you can put one enchantment on a weapon or something like that. Like you can put sharpness 1 or something like that. Well, this guy, okay, he'll put sharpness 1. He'll put knockback on it. Then he'll also put, what else is another enchantment from it? I'm kind of forgetting. But anyways, basically, they have all those enchantments on there, like swipe, the swipe one. I forgot what it's called. Basically, he has all the enchantments that you can get on a sword to the max. And he makes very powerful swords. Then I have on here that he plays with another powerful demon. And is very much played because he could beat it at any point. He just plays around with it to see how powerful it is, to test out his abilities. Then he goes after an entire Assassin's Guild of 6 members all by himself. He just goes after him and he ends up fighting with them and stuff like that. But he proceeds to befriend the entire guild and then helps them control their powers. Then he meets a very powerful demon and demon lord, and actually for once has to fight seriously, and that's near the end of the series. And then he learns the demon lord's trick. Like, the demon lord took over the body of someone that can teleport, and he learns how to figure out where the person's teleporting at any point using the martial arts key. And then he proceeds to play with the demon lord until he basically is like, you're no fun anymore, and throws him away. But yeah, then he plays with him for the rest of the episode. So, very cool series. I like it. If you like overpowered characters, like, this guy's overpowered from birth. So yeah, I have some memes here. So again, we have here where he's been reading since birth, and then on top of that, he would not drink breast milk the way any gentleman properly would. So since he's been reincarnated, he doesn't need the breast milk of his, I guess, new mother or something like that. He has standards. Professionals have standards, okay? Then we have up there the pink-haired girl there. She's the one that teaches him martial arts. And she's like, do you see that, Robert? That's the name he gives her. Have you fallen for how strong I am? And he's looking at glowing rocks instead. And then I have a picture here from the manga that's colored that shows him basically intertwining multiple spells at the same time. So he's using earth, water, fire, and wind in that order. He activated the highest tiers of those elements over 100 times. And at 3 times the speed of any normal high-speed spell deployment. So he'll use one spell on top of another spell, on top of another spell, on top of another spell in quick succession to make these super, super powerful spells. He's min-maxing, okay? This character is min-maxing at its max. So, very cool series. Like I said, I love the art style. The characters are very entertaining. Every character is entertaining in here. And all of them are cute. I like the art style. Plus, I love overpowered characters. It's one of those things. So yeah, if you like that and you think it sounds interesting, I'd highly recommend watching it. So let's move on to number 2. So number 2, of course, I had to do one of my favorite isekais, Konosuba: God's Blessing on This Wonderful World, Season 3. So, Konosuba, of course, don't know about it already. It's a very popular isekai, comedy isekai, fantasy also. Basically, our man Kazuma there, the only guy that's like the main cast, he ends up dying, gets reincarnated to this world. He ends up bringing a goddess with him because he can choose one item to bring with him, and he ends up choosing her. I guess she's an item. And then he also has an explosive archmage with him that can only use 1 explosion per a day. It's huge, but then the blonde there is a crusader that basically cannot hit anything, but she's very, very, very durable. And basically it's their life in this world, and they usually get into very, very funny instances. Bad stuff always happens to them. They always end up getting out of it in a funny way, usually. So, it's hilarious. It's one of those things, if you like comedy and you like isekai, if you haven't watched it yet, you'll love it. So that is a brief description of the show, I guess. Let's go over some of the spoiler territory stuff that happens in the show. So, yes. So, the very first episode, okay, they run into this plant creature that looks like an injured girl. And I have on here, don't be tricked by weird, cute, injured girls on the side of the road. Because I do have a picture here. If you look in the very, very corner up here, the mimic can't be dangerous, and then the mimic. And basically, if you see a cute girl on the side of the road that's injured and also looks like that, don't help them. Just run. Oh, and inside that corpse that she's carrying in that picture there, there is a magic mallet that Kazuma ends up getting, that it makes gold coins whenever it's like shaken or like hit. And this is quickly stolen by another character, Chris, that's a thief inside this series. So sad face. There's a princess of the kingdom that ends up liking Kazuma for some reason. Like, not... She doesn't like him for his body. She just likes him for his charm, basically. And she likes talking with him and stuff like that. And she basically steals him. Like, she is teleporting back to the castle. And she grabs onto Kazuma and teleports him with her. The princess starts calling him Big Brother and allows him to stay at the castle. And he basically has a pretty long time where he stays there, basically living like a prince. The group tries to stop a thief that is stealing from crooked nobles, and it turns out it's Chris, the same person that stole that magic mallet. The princess has a magical necklace that I want to talk about real quick. So the princess has a necklace that causes people's bodies, like people's consciousnesses, to switch bodies. So basically, it's Freaky Friday. So Kazuma ends up getting put into the princess's body. The princess ends up getting put into Kazuma's body. So Kazuma gets to be a princess, okay? He gets to boss people around, and he almost gets to go into the bath with Darkness and a female knight. But it gets ruined. But the princess is in Kazuma's body, and Megumin has been guiding the princess around and ends up getting the princess into a fight, and she ends up getting beat up in Kazuma's body. Then, you know how I said that Chris was the one that was stealing from the crooked nobles? Chris ends up convincing Kazuma to help her steal a magic item from the princess, which is the necklace that ends up switching their bodies. And while this is happening, Kazuma is actually a really, really good thief, because he ends up going in there and he is wonderful at it. Wonderful. Like, he beats like knights and stuff like that. He ends up stealing the necklace, and he also ends up stealing the ring from the princess, which that's another thing that we're not going to talk about. They end up fighting a giant hydra in a lake later on. And then the whole rest of the guild ends up helping them. Like, the whole rest of the town goes there, and they basically have a raid on this big giant hydra. And it's actually pretty cool. And there's actually a scene in it where the hydra is falling, and Darkness, Kazuma is underneath it, and Darkness ends up holding up the entire hydra so that Kazuma does not get squished. And the whole time, since she's a masochist and like very durable, she is drooling the entire time. It's pretty funny. But yeah, really cool fight. And then also at the very end, Darkness almost gets married to a creepy noble, but Kazuma ends up stealing her at the last moment. So, pretty cool. Yeah, so let's go over some of the memes that I have here. So, we have this one to my side here. Something about you reminds me of my older brother. Reminds you of what exactly? Like my big brother. And he decided to stay at the castle just by getting called Big Brother. And then again, I have the creature, the plant creature there, basically sucking up. That's a bad way to put it. But it says the guy is basically dried up, and it's a mimic. And then I could not put the picture of Darkness with shredded abs there, okay? Because it's joked a lot that she has like a six-pack. She has like amazing abs. And I found a picture of her with amazing abs, so I had to put it. Yeah. So that's Konosuba. That is what happened that season there. I enjoyed it. It's never a letdown, Konosuba is. It's always funny. I always have a good time watching it. So let's move on to my number one pick. Could it be anything else, guys? Really, okay? Whenever I initially saw this was going to be happening this season, I knew it was going to be one of my top. I knew I was going to love it. And it's Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation, Season 2, Part 2. So, anyways, Jobless Reincarnation, if you haven't seen any of the first season or the first part of season 2, our main man, Rudius, there gets reincarnated, and he is kind of a trash human being in his old world. But when he gets reincarnated, he really changes his way of life. Okay, he ends up getting like almost a stand-up guy, almost. And he is very talented in magecraft, magic. So the first season, he ends up getting teleported in a catastrophe, and he ends up going to, I think it was the Demon Continent, and he ends up going there with Eris, another girl, and they end up making their way back home. But everyone else in the town ended up getting teleported away too. So that is continuing on this part because they are still looking for some of the people that are missing. Also, the first part of this season, Rudius is at a school, and he gets to learn more stuff and meet more people. Don't want to ruin too much, so that's just a short description of it. Well, actually, also in the first part, he ends up finding Sylphie there, the white-haired. She's a demon. Yeah, she's not an elf. But yeah, anyways, he ends up finding her, and they end up they're going to be getting married. So yeah, very cute. Anyways, now let's go on to the spoiler territory for this part. So what I have wrote down here. So, very beginning, Rudius ends up getting a house, which might be boring for people, but inside this house, it is supposedly haunted, and there is a mechanical doll that is in there that they end up having to fight, which is actually pretty cool. Then Rudius and Sylphie end up getting married. Very good. I was very excited for it. They are such a cute couple, and it's wonderful. Then also, Rudius helps another girl at the academy because this other girl is another reincarnated person like him. Or actually, she was teleported here, I think. I don't think she was reincarnated. Yeah, she got teleported there. But she's been trying to go back to her their original world. So she is making summoning circles to try to summon something from their world, so then she can try to send herself back. And they end up working on summoning circles, and they end up summoning a plastic bottle from their world. So they're getting pretty close. Or I guess a plastic bottle, they haven't really transferred to anything that's live. Then his sisters end up coming to live with him. Yeah. Then, of course, one of the biggest things, okay? Sylphie ends up getting pregnant, okay? Apparently, they're supposed to, actually, no, she is an elf, isn't she? For some reason, I thought she was a DM. I don't know. Anyways, Sylphie ends up getting pregnant, which apparently it should have been harder for her to get pregnant for her species. Anyways, very cool. They are super happy. I love it. But there is a slight snag that ends up happening because Rudius had to go help his dad. Because whenever the major magic catastrophe happened and everyone got teleported, his mom also got teleported away. Everyone did. But his mom is still missing, and his dad has been looking for her for a while. But his dad has finally found her, and Rudius has to go help his dad save his mom on another continent. And the problem with that being is that that continent is like, I think it was like 7-8 months away. And if you're gone 7-8 months there, 7-8 months back, you're not going to be back in time for the baby to be born. So he has to choose between going to help his dad save his mom and maybe missing the birth of his baby. So yeah. But there is something that ends up happening. So that one girl that's been working with summoning circles, she knows where there is a teleportation circle that would make the trip a lot faster. So they end up using that teleporting circle, and they end up shaving months off their time. So they end up getting there and meeting with Rudius' dad. The dad says that his mom is in a labyrinth or dungeon. And also, Roxy, the girl that trained him in the very beginning of the first season, She is also in the dungeon, and she is trapped in there. She's lost. Luckily, Rudius saves her. And yeah. Then also, the boss of the dungeon at the very bottom is a Hydra. They have a lot of trouble with the Hydra because initially, Hydras, when you cut off a head, it regrows the head. They end up going the Hercules route and end up cauterizing the wound with fire. But in the fight, Paul, to save Rudius, ends up pushing him out of the way, and Paul ends up dying. And even more insult to injury, they get Rudius' mom out of a crystal that is down there behind the Hydra, and she is basically like a doll. And she doesn't have any memory, she doesn't really interact or talk or anything like that. She's basically a doll. So Rudius went there and lost his father, and also could not even completely save his mother. So, very sad. And then Rudius is in very, very bad state of mind because he basically lost both his parents. Roxy, this whole time has been kind of coming on to Rudius, doesn't really know he's married, and stuff like that. And at this point, she does, but she ends up sleeping with Rudius to make him feel better. Yeah, not really great when you're married. But anyways, they make it back home before the birth of Rudius' child. And he ends up asking Sylphie if Roxy can be his second wife, which, surprisingly, Sylphie is completely alright with. I can't say I'd be in the same boat, but if she thinks they can make it work, that's good. And I mean, I hate to not make Roxy happy, but Rudius, you kind of already got a wife. You got a baby on the way. And a little bit after, I guess he ends up accepting Roxy as a second wife, the baby is born. So we get to see his baby, Rudius Jr. I don't actually know what the name is for it. But yeah, that is all that happened in the Season 2 Part 2. So, a lot of stuff happened. It was very action-packed. Every episode was, left you at the edge of your seat because you never knew what was going to happen and what was going to happen next. So, now, of course, for the memes, okay? So, first off, we have this one here where I receive your father's... I receive your father and your left hand. Oh, I forgot to say Rudius lost his left hand during the fight too. And then you receive your mother in a vegetative state. And that's the Hydra. That's what the Hydra gets out of this. Then also I have a picture up there at the top which is kind of cut off from this bottom one. But basically, whenever Rudius, at the very beginning of the season, he has just beat his erectile dysfunction. And basically, these girls here, they can basically smell that he's in heat. And then they say that, every woman in the academy is in danger of getting pregnant, basically. So it's pretty funny. Then up on the other side, we have there where Sylphie is telling Rudius that she hasn't had her period in a while, and that she's probably pregnant. Very cute facial expressions. And then, on their way to the labyrinth to go help Rudius' dad, he ends up getting kind of controlled by a succubus. And before he leaves, he says, I won't do anything on this trip. I won't do anything to any other women on the trip, which ends up being a lie with Roxy. But he ends up getting kind of controlled by the succubus, and he almost touches her grandma, Sylphie's grandma. Oh, and then he ends up saying, do you want to do sexy stuff? So yeah, very, very funny. I liked it. This is a very good season. Mushoku Tensei, even though Rudius can kind of be, especially in the very beginning, kind of a crappier person and stuff like that, and sometimes a scumbag and whatnot, he changes a lot, and he grows as a character, and it's fantasy, and it's isekai, and I'm gonna love it either way. I'm very excited for the next season. It's going to be great. So yeah, we'll have to see how Sylphie, his child, and Roxy all end up. And yeah, very, very, very good. So that's my top 10 for this, but there are some honorable mentions, some that didn't quite make it to the top 10. So we'll go over those in a little bit less detail. So we have Spice and Wolf. Merchant meets the Wise Wolf. So Spice and Wolf, there is an original Spice and Wolf that this is an updated form of it, and this has followed it pretty good compared to the original. I have not noticed anything that has really changed. There's might be slight changes, okay? Because I think at the very beginning, one of the person that he meets in that village with the wheat, I'm pretty sure is a girl instead of a guy. So I think that changed. But I have not noticed anything big that changed other than that. So if you just want an upgraded graphics or whatever, this is basically that. It's a remake. And then I have memes here. So up top we have Hollow saying "Let's do it," and then our guy there is, "This is not about economics at all. You lied to me." Which our guy is majorly about economics and making money. He is a merchant. And then her Hollow sitting there saying, "I should warn you, I'm an animal in bed." And then it's her in bed, and it says, "Bring me food and give me head pats, just like an animal." And then we have up top there, we have the old and new form of Hollow, and it's from Brave, and it's no, it's not Brave, sorry. That guy's from How I Trained Your Dragon, and it's "You're as beautiful as the day I lost you." Yes. And then we have on the bottom there, we have the joke from The Simpsons saying "Do it for her," and it's Hollow instead of his girl. But yeah, very good. I like the updated graphics. I don't know if I like it better than the original because it's pretty well known and pretty well liked, but it's still pretty good. So if you just want an updated form and like a new looks, and you just want to relive the story, yeah, go ahead and watch it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Then we have as a reincarnated aristocrat, I'll use my appraisal skill to raise up in the world, whatever. Anyways, this one is one that, like, I'll go ahead and move myself over here since there's no meme, but it's kind of interesting. It kept my interest because the characters are kind of likable and stuff. But basically, he gets reincarnated as an aristocrat, of course, kind of like the story says, and he can see the skills of people. So he can basically see their aptitudes and stuff like that. He can see if they're a good mage, like they're good at magic, they're good at archery, they're good at stuff like that. And he can see what tier they are. So like S, A, B, C, E tier, whatever. So he basically goes around and uses cheat codes. And he looks around on the streets, finds a person, and is like, "Hey, you have S in magic," for that girl in the very corner on that one meme there. Or, "Oh, you're very good at swordsmanship," or something like that. And he basically takes them and turns them into a retainer. And retainers, basically, they just work for you, basically. They work directly under you. But yeah, he just does that. And also there's kind of a war brewing and stuff like that. And he's trying to get ready for the war and whatnot. So it's kind of interesting. It's one of those that, like, I wouldn't say I highly recommend it, but it's one of those that's kind of interesting. And I have my meme here, and it's S tier aptitude as mage. "Wait, would you be willing to become my retainer?" And then she says, "I'd rather die than serve a child like you," which that changes very quickly. But yeah. Oh, and then of course this one. Okay, so this one's another honorable mention because the Misfit at Demon King Academy, sorry. I liked the first season of this. Okay, the first season I actually thought was kind of enjoyable. But I'll be honest with you, the second season has been so confusing. I don't know for sure if it's how they adapted the source material or what it is. I mentioned that in the first part of this. But it's just so confusing. It makes somewhat sense at the end, but the whole time they're building up to something, and I'm sitting here like, what are you building up to? But yeah, they end up going to an underground civilization, basically, that's controlled by dragonoids or dragonids. Dragon people that descend from dragons. And then there's also gods that he's fighting, which he fought gods in the first season. That's not much. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. This was kind of one that I almost quit watching, but I'm already this far in. I'm 2 seasons in. I'm gonna stick around. It's kind of entertaining. Some of the characters cool. About the main thing I do like about it, let's go ahead and go to the memes. Because what I like about it is rule number 1, Anyo solos. Okay? Basically, he beats everything, and it's not even close. he beats a god so easily, and he beats everyone so easily. And then he also has up there in the top, okay, you have that picture, and it says, "Do you really think I'd die just because I was killed?" And I'm like, I don't know, man. Would you die if you were killed? No, he wouldn't. And then I have this one here, which this is from the first season, but it's his mother, okay? And it's, "But you're only a month old, and you've already brought home a wife." Excuse me? What the frick? And the main thing is, whenever he got reincarnated, or like brought, because he was alive like thousands of years ago, and he got brought back as the Demon Lord, and he grew, like basically right when he was born, he was a full adult. Or I guess he might be a teen. I don't know what he's considered. But yeah, a month old, and he's already brought home a wife, and it's those, like, the women, basically, in the front picture there. But yeah, it's kind of entertaining. I really, really want to think that the source material, like the manga or either light novel it's based off of, is better. I want to think that. I don't know for sure. So possibly in the future, I might have to look into that and see if it's any better. But yeah, I think that's all of them. Yep, that is all of the anime that we are going to talk about. And like I said, I would highly, highly, highly recommend Mushoku Tensei if you haven't watched it. Even if you don't like isekai, if you like fantasy, isekai is not a huge aspect of this because he is reborn into this world. He's not just teleported here. He is born here and he lived here his like entire life. Plus, it's pretty cute at some points and sad at others, and actiony at others. Then Konosuba, of course, if you like comedies and you like fantasy, watch it. Reincarnated as the Seventh Prince might not be your favorite thing, but the art style is very, very cute. Read Monster, kind of entertaining. I liked it. Train to the End of World is just very, very weird. It's almost like an acid trip the whole time through. And it's cute. Delicious Dungeon. Oh my gosh, I cannot say enough good stuff about Delicious Dungeon. It is just very entertaining, and it is a meme farm. Like, there's so many memes of this. It makes me laugh every single time. Very good. Reincarnated as a Slime. I hope the rest of the season is great. Grandpa and Grandma turn young again. Very, very wholesome. Very, very nice. My Hero Academia. I hope the rest of the season is good. I hope it gets animated well. Then Duke of Death and His Maid Season 3. I'm glad I could watch this to its entirety. So, yep, that is all of the top anime of spring 2024. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you listened to my spoilers or whatnot and you didn't spoil it for yourself. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time, I guess in summer 2024 after we get done with this season and I go over what anime I liked out of it. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time. So, bye!